Hi, welcome to day 8 of the Purpose-Driven Life. Today we're going to talk about the fact that we were planned for God's pleasure, for His enjoyment. God didn't need to create you, but He chose to create you, and He did that for His own pleasure. The first purpose for our life is to bring enjoyment to God. When you fully understand that you were made for God's enjoyment, then you will never again feel insignificant. One of our greatest God-given gifts is the ability to enjoy pleasures. God gave us our 5 senses and our emotions because He wants us to enjoy life, not just endure it. Believe it or not, God has emotions too. He feels the same things that we feel, because remember, we were made in His image. So if He gave us emotions, God's going to have emotions. The Bible tells us that God feels the same emotions that we feel: sorrow, happiness, anger, etc. God even laughs. I've actually heard Him myself, believe it or not. The way we bring pleasure to God is through worship. We are hardwired to continually worship God. Worship comes naturally if we allow it. However, when we fail to worship God, we always find a substitute, and it's usually ourselves. You may think of worship as going to church, singing, listening to teachings, but it's much more than that. Worship is praying, reading scripture, singing, giving an offering, all kinds of things. Worship is often thought of as a style of music. However, that is a misconception. Worship has nothing to do with music, its style, its tune, its volume, or its speed. As a matter of fact, there is no biblical style of worship. Worship is not for our benefit, but it's for God's. Our goal is to bring pleasure to God through all that we do. That is worship. So, if you say or you hear someone say they didn't get anything out of the worship service, then you or that person are worshipped for the wrong reason. Worship is your life. That is what we are called to do. We're called to worship God continually. So how are we supposed to do that? Well, first of all, you have to have the mindset that everything you're doing is for God. Whether it's working a full-time job or a part-time job, cooking, cleaning, taking care of the kids, doing the laundry, doing the housework, mowing the yard, whatever it is, you're doing it for God. Also, have a continual conversation with God. Tell Him everything. Everything you're going to do, everything that you did, everything that you want to do, how you feel. Remember, you're working for God, not man. And that should be your mindset. So real worship is actually falling in love with God, just like you fell in love with your husband or your wife or your fiancé, your boyfriend, your girlfriend. So, thinking about Him constantly, that's worship. And what you can do to make Him happy, that's part of worship. You know, you're constantly thinking of ways to make your husband or your wife happy, or your children, or your loved one happy. You should be thinking about God too. How can you make Him happy? Every minute, every second of every day is what you're doing a pleasure to God. So our point to remember for this week is, I was planned for God's pleasure. Not mine, God's. Our verse is Psalm 149:4. And the question is, what common task could you start doing as if you were doing it directly for God. Until next time, have a blessed day.